Hello, this is Steve Pisarelli from MGI, Graphics Specialist. Welcome to MGI's second installment of the Jet Varnish 3D mask creation using layout software. Today I'd like to introduce you to creating a mask file for the Jet Varnish 3D, which we're using a layout program InDesign CS6 for the creation of the mask to be placed into the Jet Varnish 3D. So you'd start out with the creation of your, say, a 1218 for this job right here is a 1218 sheet. And then we have a background that we're placing in here of a space. We're putting in Thor, the logo here, and the Jet Varnish 3D logo. Now what we want to start out with on here is putting Thor himself. We've been working this in the other installments of making masks. So we're going to start with Thor. So we're going to come up to here. We're going to say File, Place. We're going to find the artwork for this particular job. So we're going to the Thor. We have all the different elements. So we're going to find Thor right here. It's a Photoshop file. PSD is the extension on here. And we're going to say Open. Oh, didn't want to do that. We just wanted to place Thor on here. So here we have Thor placed and we can position Thor anywhere we want to give it the look of where he's going to be at. The next thing that we want to do, we want to actually put this in the background. Okay, Thor. So there we go. We have all of our elements showing up here. So we want Thor on top of the logo right here. Now, the next thing we want to do is we've placed this image here. Now we want to ensure that the mask that we're going to put on top of Thor in the layout program will be in the exact position of where Thor is, and all the particulars of the mask will be lined up to the parts of the printed image. So we're going to take Thor, the image right now, and we're going to edit, and we're going to copy. And then we're going to select the mask layer. We're going to turn it on. Actually, we're going to get rid of this one because we want to show how to import this one. So I'm getting rid of that one. So I'm selecting the mask layer, and I'm going to say Edit and Paste in Place. So what that does is it created the same exact file if I shut this off, and now that there's two of the same exact images right on top of each other. So if I select this, I know I got the mask file because I have the red border here, which the mask layer is in red. If I had Thor, he'd be in the blue color. So I'm selecting that, and I'm going to say File, Place, and I'm going to select the mask that I want to put in there, and I'm going to say Open. And it's going to place the mask exactly in the spot that we require to to overlay the highlight areas of the mask onto the mask image. If we shut off the Thor image, we see we just have our mask left out there. It's very critical at this point and juncture when you're creating this file that you have the mask in the right area. So if we zoom in on this image, we can see that this is a low resolution proxy image. It's just a placement holder of the image, not the final resolution. But we can actually go under View, Display Performance, and say High Quality Display. And what this will do is it will render the image. It's going to use more RAM on your computer, but it'll render the image so we actually get kind of a more closer look at the full resolution of all the parts here. So now we can really see the details of Thor and where our mask is being placed. And as we toggle off the mask and turn it on, we can see the placement. Another thing that we can do to look at is we can select the Thor mask file, and we can go up to right here to the transparency, and we can lower the transparency so we can see how the mask lines up to the image to ensure we're getting the correct positioning. Two areas that may cause a problem for this is when you're creating the file of Thor, you want to start at 360 dpi, so when you go over to create the mask, because it needs to be finally at a 360 dpi resolution file, that they're both the same, because if you do the image at 360 dpi or 300, which is more typical, and then the TIFF for the mask at 360, they're not going to match up because the resolutions will make one file a little bit smaller in size than the other size in a ratio. So here we've placed everything that we want for our job to be for final printing. So we have the mask. We don't want to send the job out to the printer with the mask on. So we're going to come up to our layers palette. We're going to shut off the mask part, and then we just have what we want to send out to the printer. So at this point, we can, if we're connected to the printer, we can send it to the digital device or the offset device to be printed. And we can send it out, or we can save it as a PDF or whatever type. So we can come up here to export. We can say we want an EPS, we want a PDF, we want a JPEG. Typically, you would be outputting this as a PDF print job. So it all depends on how you're sending it to your device, or you can go print and send it to your device. So once that part is done, we've sent the job to be printed. Next is what we want to output is the mask file. So we're going to turn on our mask file, but we're going to turn off all the rest of the other parts or elements of our layout program and just leave the mask behind as one of the elements to be exported out for TIFF creation, to be sent to the JetVarnish 3D to be put onto our printed file. So at this point, I would export this file into here. I'm going to save this one as an EPS for right now, and export it. So I'm going to leave grayscale on, TIFF preview, that's fine. Nothing else we need to have here, and save the TIFF save the EPS file to be open now in Photoshop. So we'll come down here to open Photoshop, and we're going to open up the file. We're going to say open. We're going to find our file here, Thor 3D, and here's my EPS file right here. This will give me a quick preview of it, and I'm going to open it up. Now here, as we see, we're rasterizing an EPS file. So the first thing we want to look at in Photoshop is here it says resolution 72. Now this is not what we want. That's for web. If you're creating files for the web, and for looking at displays. It's not for print. So we want to change this to 360 for 360 dpi, and we want to come here and say grayscale, because our final image is only going to need black and white for the mask. So we say OK. And then we have what we were looking at earlier as far as our image of our mask in here with all its details. The first thing we want to do is we want to come up to layer and we want to flatten the image. So that, well, it basically does just make it all one image. Here you can see with just all the white in it. The other thing we notice is that we're keeping the same page size ratio for our 1218. This is very important that we don't just send the mask over on, say, 13 by 19 when we're printed out our image at 1218 on a 1218 sheet, because our image will not be placed correctly once we bring it into the JetVarnish 3D, and our operator will have to take more time. It can be done on the JetVarnish 3D to get the mask to line up, but it's just that much more work. We want to make it seamless and easy as possible when we're bringing the files over. So now that we have our file open, we can go ahead and do a save as, and we want to save this as a TIFF. That's the final part or piece of the creation. We don't need to embed any profiles or any layers or anything for the file. We just want a flattened TIFF file at 360 dpi in grayscale. So we hit save. We don't need any image compression. We can leave this kind of more or less at where it is. It can be PC or Macintosh. It really shouldn't matter. And say OK. So now we have a grayscale TIFF of the mask. This file mask is now ready and prepared to be brought over into the JetVarnish 3D software. Once it's brought in there, the operator, if everything's been placed properly as far as the sheet size to the printed size, he should really have relatively no problems of lining up, getting the image exactly held in place to where it's going to be. At this point, the only thing the operator has to worry about is that all his elements are printing out the way they intended them to. In the spot editor, they can do some editing of this mask at certain points. They can reduce pixels. They can stretch the image to match up if you have some distortion happening on the substrate surface, either from the lamination process or from the printing process, where you're having some stretch of the image happening. So the image can be stretched in different directions. It can be tilted for some skew that may happen. So there's lots of areas on the spot editor software that comes on the Jet Varnish 3D that you can fix the image. You don't have to come back here in Photoshop or InDesign and go back through a bunch of process to get the image the way you want it. But keeping the resolutions proportional towards the printed image is going to be that much more beneficial and faster in getting the process done. Going back to InDesign here, so if we cut off our mask and turn on our other areas here, we still have other areas that we can create the mask with. We can do a mask for Thor. We can create a mask area for Jet Varnish 3D as well. This is part of the process of creating something from scratch where you're laying out the design yourself. So in this, I'd like to conclude our second installment of creating mask creation file using a layout program. I wish you luck in your designs and be creative.